Welcome to Conversations with Big Rich. This is an interview-style podcast. Those interviews are all involved in the off-road industry. Being involved, like all of my guests are, is a lifestyle, not just a job. I talk to competitive teams, racers, rock crawlers, business owners, employees, media, and private park owners, men and women who have found their way into this exciting and addictive lifestyle. We discuss their personal history, struggles, successes, and reboots. We dive into what drives them to stay active in off-road. We all hope to shed some light on how to find a path into this world we live and love and call off-road.
Whether you're crawling the Red Rocks of Moab or hauling your toys to the trail, Maxxis has the tires you can trust for performance and durability. 4 wheels or 2. Maxxis tires are the choice of champions because they know that whether for work or play, for fun or competition, Maxxis tires deliver. Choose Maxxis. Tread victoriously.
Have you seen 4Low magazine yet? 4Low magazine is a high-quality, well-written, four-wheel drive-focused magazine for the enthusiast market. If you still love the idea of a printed magazine, something to save and read at any time, 4Low is the magazine for you. 4Low cannot be found in stores, but you can have it delivered to your home or place of business. Visit 4lowmagazine.com to order your subscription today. On today's episode of Conversations with Big Rich, we have Bailey Campbell. She's a rock crawler, U4 racer, Rebel rally driver, mother, wife, and the darling of the Campbell Racing royal family. Bailey, thank you so much for spending some time and talking about your history. A lot of it I know, but I'm sure I'm going to come up with a bunch of surprises with this interview. So thank you.
Well, hi, Rich. Yeah, I'm honored to be on your podcast today. I've been listening to some of your episodes, and I was wondering when I would get a call from you.
Yep, you've been on the list, trust me. So let's start off right away. And I know the answer to this question, but maybe somebody doesn't out there. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Gilbert, Arizona, and I have never moved anywhere else, and I probably never will. I love it here.
Awesome. And you are now, I'm going to make a guess here, 23?
No, 25.
25? Oh, girl, now I'm really feeling old. Shelly and I were talking about this morning, and I said, she's 22. And Shelly goes, no, she's got to be older than that. And I'm like, no, it can't be. But 25.
I wish.
Okay.
I wish I was still 22.
See, you're young enough to where I can ask that question. You never ask a woman her age, but you're young enough where it doesn't really matter. So.
Yep.
So let's talk about those early years in Gilbert. You grew up with an off-road racing, rock crawling family. The first time I think I met you, you probably won't remember it, but I think you were swaddled at an event. So let's talk about those early years and what it was like, growing up in Gilbert and being part of that racing heritage.
Yeah, definitely. My dad started the rock crawling stuff before I was even born. So around 1995 is when he got really into it. I was born in 97. It really started with him taking my brother and I out to the rock crawling trails in Florence, Arizona with all of his rock crawling buddies. And it was just an awesome environment to be around, especially growing up in the shop with him doing all the fabrication work and watching him and my Uncle Nick build things together. My brother finally got into building things, and it really sparked an interest for me. My dad told me I couldn't race unless I got down to the shop and got my hands on some of the cars myself and really started to learn about them. And then there's a parade here called Gilbert Days Parade, and it's usually in November. And it was so much fun because my dad would literally bring every single car and take it through that parade. And I was so jealous I never got to drive one. It was always him and his friends. And then my brother finally got to drive one himself. And, they're in the middle of the streets crawling over the tires on them and just putting on a good show for the whole town. And God, I just really fell in love with it, and I didn't want anything else more than to get in one myself.
So we'll get into your start in a little bit, but let's talk about young and going to school and
Yeah.
what kind of student you might have been and where your interest lied, at that time.
Yeah. So I was really I didn't really show much interest through elementary school to junior high in the racing world. I kind of did my own thing. I was more of my dad and my brother's area. So it was mostly my mom and I doing our own thing, like typical girls going shopping, getting our nails done. And then I did start going to the races more. And one thing that really got me interested was doing photography. So I got into that. I started getting all of the photography classes in high school and bought my first camera, computer, and that was like my main thing.
Right.
I started my own company called Bailey Campbell Media, and it's kind of, I've pushed it way off to the side these days because I haven't had much time to do it. But photography was my thing. I was pretty much a straight A student. I'd say my least favorite class was science, like anatomy and I don't know, making chemicals and stuff. That didn't have any interest in that. But history and math, oh God, I loved those classes. And honestly, I finished as many credits as I could so that my senior year I only had to go to school for 2 hours, and then that was the end of my day.
So were you able to do that because you took summer school as well, or were you
No,
traveling
I
during the
just
summer?
traveled full time in the summer for all the racing, and then, I just kept my grades up and kept track of the credits that each class gave me. That would also cover a lot of the classes that I would have to take when I went into college, and I just got a ton out of the way early.
Okay, so were you taking AP classes or just standard?
I took a couple standard, or I'm sorry, a couple AP, but mostly standard.
All right. And when you were growing up, what did you want to become? Do you remember that the first thing you said, this is what I want to do?
Junior high, it was a veterinarian,
Okay.
and I loved animals at the time. My Aunt Karen got me into a lot of horseback riding, and I used to do gymkhanas with her. And she had me doing barrels and pole racing on her horses and stuff. So that sparked an interest with animals. But as time went on for school and stuff, I just got more involved with my dad and my brother, and that got pushed to the wayside, and I didn't take anything to pursue that.
So while you were in high school, say, did you take any shop classes at all? Like take
Yeah,
automotive classes?
I did. I did. I would say that my high school shop class wasn't like the best because the teacher, like, he had a lot of interest in showing kids how to weld and do woodworking and a little bit of working on vehicles, but my school wasn't, I don't know, didn't have quite the budget to really spark more interest in kids that like it should have for something like that.
I understand that they took the focus away from hands-on type
Exactly.
stuff,
Yep.
and put it more toward technology. Right.
Yep. Yep.
So then did you attend your senior prom and all those kind of things as well?
I think I went to two homecomings. And I dated a guy outside of school, and I didn't really have any interest in bringing him into the crowd that I hung around. I hung out with more of his friends, and he actually lived an hour away in a town called Kearney. And so didn't really show much interest in going to the proms or anything. But my first 2 years of high school, I did go to homecoming.
Okay, so how do you meet a guy that's from an hour away as a high school as somebody in high school?
So I think his name is Eli, and he came down to the shop looking for a job here as a fabricator and to get his hands on some welding and learn more from my dad because he did follow my dad's racing career. Um, and then he ended up taking a job here, and we started dating.
Ah, okay. I do remember Eli now. Okay.
Yeah. And he pops around every once in a while and helps us out still.
Good. Awesome. So when you finally got a chance to come out and rock crawl, because I think that's what you did first,
Yep.
do you remember which event it was?
Was it wait a
Was it
minute. Was it
Congress?
Cortez? Oh, yes, it was Congress. Yes.
Yeah, I
I
remember
remember.
Cortez because that was while you were racing as well.
Yes. It was Congress.
Okay.
I remember doing it in my dad's unlimited buggy and trying to help him roll it over back over on one of the courses. That picture just popped up recently.
Really? So you were out of the car trying to lift the car.
Yeah.
That's a lot of effort for such a tiny person. I mean,
Yeah. I don't think I was doing much of anything there.
but being the crowd favorite.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I think that you always have been. That's the impression I've always got. Is everybody's always pulled for you. I mean, everybody loves your family, your brother and your dad, and especially your mom. But you are like I said, the darling of the royal family, and people really want to see you succeed.
It's much appreciated. It really is.
Do you ever feel that that's a lot of pressure?
No, I don't feel much pressure in that aspect at all. My dad has always taught me like to be respectful and never take anything for granted. He's taught me how to work for something that I really want, and I feel like I've done that.
Right, because like you said earlier, he required you to come down and work in the shop before you got a shot at it.
Yeah, exactly.
And is that to prove that you really want it, or do you think it's to just give you the hands-on so that you know what you have to do and maybe how the car handles better and all that? What do you think?
I think it's both. I don't think he just wanted me to work on it to like put in my effort or whatnot, but to make sure that it's actually something I enjoyed doing. It was an interest, not just quite a hobby, but something that I would want to keep going at. But
Right.
then it also taught me the fundamentals of how the car works and little things to watch out for during a race. Like, oh, you need to watch your temps. If the car feels this way or it's upset going through the whoops, like throttle it out. Don't get on the brakes right away. And that's also something that my co-drivers have taught me tremendously.
Okay. And which do you? I know what the answer is going to be. I'm going to be disappointed. Which did you enjoy more? The racing, going fast, or the rock crawling?
Actually, I truly enjoy the rock crawling. I
Oh,
think
you just made my day.
really, really. I think because I started out in it, that technical stuff, it just, oh my God, I can't tell you how much I love it. That's one thing at the Hammers, and even our last race, like they kept telling us, like there's gonna be real rock courses, you're gonna be winching, you're gonna have to have technical stuff going on. And I was just so excited because I feel like that's what I'm good at. I don't get frustrated. I take my time. And one big thing was that the throttle control that my dad taught us when we first started rock crawling is, don't make the car jerk a lot. Just like that even pedal with the throttle and the brake at the same time is important. Just to keep the car, I don't even know the word, just to keep it going and not mess up basically.
Right.
But yeah, the rock crawling and the technical aspect of it has always been my favorite.
I'm so happy to hear that. You've made me very happy. So let's talk more about the rock crawling then.
Okay.
Your dad, I remember your dad spotting for you early on, or was it your Uncle Nick?
My dad started first.
Right. And I can remember one of the things that I always used to have to tell him was keep his hands off the car.
Yes.
He liked to hold the cage as you were driving or touch the tire, while you were moving. And it was like, Shannon, you can't touch the car. And he didn't even know he was doing it. But...
I know. I remember that.
So,
yeah, he was my first co-driver. And I loved him being my co-driver, or I'm sorry, spotter. But I think because we work on the cars together, we're around each other 24/7, we had that bickering problem. Like, he said I should go one way when I thought I should be kind of throttling and going the other way. So he saw things differently outside the car as to what I was seeing inside the car. And
Okay.
as a spotter, I know he's there to help me.
Right. So then who spotted for you after your dad?
It was my Uncle Nick. And then so my dad was my first spotter in Congress, and then we went on to Cortez, and my Uncle Nick spotted there for me the first time, and I accidentally ran him over.
I remember that. And then I think that's when he decided not to spot any longer.
Yes. That was his last one.
Does he, when he's around the shop and you're moving cars, does he keep well out of the way still, or?
No, I think we've gotten better. I think we're past that.
Okay, that's good. I know you didn't mean to, because that climb was a bump climb and
Yes.
kind of a blind area as you came up over the crest, and
Right.
he was not in the right position either, Nick. So if you hear this, Nick, sorry, but I'm going to throw you under the bus instead of the young lady. But that's why we have communication too, So
Yes, definitely.
so there at Cortez, you got to drive both cars on the first day, and you were supposed to jump into the Pro Mod, but wanted to stay in the Unlimited. That was
Yes.
that surprised me. Why did you like the Unlimited better than the Pro Mod?
Well, I hate to bring it up, but actually for that race, we had another conflict with another competitor who didn't see that I should be driving both classes for
Right.
points reasons. So I chose to do the unlimited because I was already farther ahead for the day in points. So I just stuck with the car that I thought would basically put me on the podium.
Okay.
I tremendously enjoyed both classes, though. I would drive either one of those cars today if they were available.
Right. Now, anybody out there hearing that wants to get Bailey back into crawling, all you need to do is find a car for her.
Yes. I'm down. I'm down. Brian said he would be my spotter, so let's go.
There you go. Brian spotted me one time on the Rubicon up through
Nice. Yeah.
up through we were leaving Jeepers Jamboree, and I was following all the Genrite guys, and he was like the last one in line, and those guys all had big tires, lots of horsepower, and on my Cherokee I've got 35s and no horsepower. And we get to property line, and it's just a bunch of boulders, just everything's moving, and
Yeah.
he kicked one rock into a hole, and then he goes, "Okay, drive it." And of course it just went right up, but it was nice.
Oh man.
So
Yeah,
go ahead.
okay. Go ahead.
No, let's talk about the Rubicon.
Yeah, so I went on the Rubicon for the first time with Brian a few years ago, and it was so much fun. We ended up taking his JL that we actually had just got done kind of putting together, and that was really fun as well. And those trails are just something else, with all those beautiful trees and the slab type rock, and it was so much fun.
The vistas are incredible.
They are.
It's not a difficult trail as far as rock crawling trail goes, but it's still iconic because of the views and the distance.
Yeah.
Right. And so, have you done the Rubicon besides doing it during Jamboree?
I have not.
Okay. Jamboree, though, is fun. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. No, it was a blast.
I remember your dad coming up with his brother and your grandfather a number of times, and then I think your brother came up one time,
Yeah.
but I never was up there while you were up there.
Yep.
But it can kind of, it's not for kids.
No, not that weekend.
Yeah, the following weekend is the family run.
Yeah.
So anybody
No, there
hearing
was
that,
always
go ahead.
there was always something going on. It was constant fun for sure.
Absolutely. And so, for anybody that's never been on the Rubicon and would like to experience it, I do recommend people go on Jeepers Jamboree for the first time on the con, for just the simple fact that you get guided, you can learn where the actual trail's at. There's rock rollers out there, and there's a heck of a party at the Springs while you're there for a couple of days.
Yeah. And I think registration opens up pretty soon, doesn't it?
Yeah, I believe it does. I don't know if they do it right at the first of the year or earlier than that. I've been trying to get Sweeney on here for 2 years, and he wants to do it in person. And now that I'm not stuck in Placerville, but now that I'm in Placerville, I got to make that happen.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the start of your racing career, actually coming out and racing.
So like Dirt Riot?
Yeah, that's where you cut your teeth, right?
Yep, sure is. I think it was Colorado Springs was my first one in the solid axle car that was originally my dad's fishing rig. He finally said, all right, let's get this seat adjusted, get you some brake pedal extensions and throttle pedal extensions so you can reach, and let's go try a first Dirt Riot race. And I think we ran into some radiator problems. I don't even remember if we actually finished that race, but that was my first one and haven't stopped since. So
I don't remember if that was the race where you guys showed up and didn't have a chance to pre-run for very much. And and I remember one time your dad took off, and I don't know if it was just himself or it was you and him, but he ran the qualifier was going to be the very first beginning of the race track and then pull off, and he kept going and ran the whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, we had to wait because of course he's coming around, and I was like, why did you do that? And he was like, well, I needed to learn the track, So, I was like, well, that's not the time to do it.
Oh, only my dad.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've noticed about you is that you're very smooth. You're not on and off the throttle as much herky-jerky throttle as I've seen a lot of the guys. They're just hard on into a corner. They brake hard, and then they power out, and they look like they're going really fast. But all of a sudden, when you see those qualifying times, you were there. I mean, that I noticed that in Moab was probably the first time I really paid attention to it, because as you were qualifying, I was like, yeah, that's not going to hold up. That time wasn't very fast because you just looked so smooth out there. It was just like you weren't on the throttle enough. And I think you ended up qualifying like second or third. And I was like, well, I was wrong there. Is that intentional, or do you like to be, smooth is fast, I believe. But is it what was taught to you? Because your brother certainly doesn't drive that way.
Yeah. So my dad's biggest thing was always throttle control, especially with the rock crawling stuff. And then I think it kind of just carried over to anything desert as well. I think it also helped that he was in the co-driver seat for a lot of my first Dirt Riot races. And he was saying, like, go, 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 or like, slow down, slow down. And then his biggest thing was always give it finesse, always do finesse. And that would be coming out of a corner or going over a rock pile that might have been in the middle of the course or something like that. So it was definitely something taught, and it has stuck. So. And
I think that it's shown to work, especially for you.
Yeah, like you said, smooth is fast.
So let's talk about those races, the Dirt Riot races, like Moab. I know that was a special moment by the time the awards came around, but talk about that racetrack.
Moab has always been my favorite. I wish we raced there more often. The rock crawling combined with the miniature like short course jumps and stuff. I just feel like we've had so many memories there, so many problems and so many good moments that it's just always been one of my favorites. I wish I could remember more of my races there during Dirt Riot, uh, but definitely my favorite place to be.
I think it was your first podium.
It was, yeah, with my dad.
Yep. And your dad could hardly talk.
I have the picture of him crying and hugging me.
That was an awesome moment. And those are the moments that we live for is seeing that with especially, we're not doing the dirt ride anymore, but with the rock crawls, we have a lot of young ladies and young kids out competing nowadays. I mean, I got kids as young as 5 years old out rock crawling now. And
That's so cool.
it really is. And the one of the things when the parents call me and say, "Hey, I want to get my kid started," and I say, "Okay, first thing is who's spotting?" And they'll say, "Well, I'm going to spot." And I said, "Okay, remember that if you yell at your kid, I'm yanking you out. Not your kid, but I'm yanking you out."
Yeah.
You have to communicate but not yell.
Yes.
Because,
that's a great rule. I like that.
Parents, it's from coaching sports, youth sports. I used to see coaches and parents yell at their kids and the kids just shut down. And it's like, that's not the way to do it. So I wouldn't let people, yell at their kids. I wish I could get that to happen between husbands and wives or boyfriends and girlfriends. There was a lot of that going on too, the yelling, but they're adults. They can figure that out.
Yeah.
So let's talk some more about the racing when you finally got done with Dirt Riot, and your dad. I know your dad wanted to break you in. That's the whole idea behind what was behind Dirt Riot was giving a place for people to have a chance to learn how to go fast and to complete races. And then you started racing Ultra 4.
Yep. Yeah. So it went from We Rock, Dirt Riot, and then straight into Ultra 4 in the 4400 class. And as my dad always says, he's throwing me in with the wolves to learn. So,
how intimidating was
it's
that?
Working. I didn't really find it very intimidating. I think having Brian Miller as my co-driver, he's always kept me pretty calm, and everybody says he talks your ear off, but not in the car. He's pretty quiet. He talks when he wants to or needs to, and he helped me figure things out. And now he always says, I barely talk at all because she just knows what to do.
Right. That's awesome. I'm going to be interviewing Ryan today after your interview, and when I was communicating back and forth with him, I said, "Yeah, I'm going to be interviewing Bailey before you," and he goes, "My Bailey?"
Oh, Miller.
Yep, Miller. He is quite the character.
He is. Gotta love him.
So let's talk about the until we get into specific races here, about you and Brian.
Okay.
How did that all transpire?
Let's see. I think it'll be about, I've already lost track. It's terrible. About 4 or 5 years now that we've been together this November. And it's funny because it was one night at the Ultra 4 Awards banquet. He saw me on stage and leaned over to one of our good friends. We call him Hollywood, but his name's Dave Yulberg, and said, "Who is that?" And said I was very beautiful. And, Dave has always really watched over me because, like, I'm his own daughter. He has 2 girls of his own. And he's like, "That's Bailey Campbell." And you kind of like reamed him, like, "Don't you dare." And Dave actually ended up giving him my phone number, and Brian had texted me a few days later on our way to SEMA after the awards banquet, and we ended up meeting at a Fox party during SEMA and really hit it off. He took me out to dinner. We went out on the skyscraper and did the drop thing, or the needle, whatever it's called, in Vegas,
Right.
and just been together ever since. He actually came down after SEMA to help us get ready for Baja, and decided last minute he was going to go and help us pit. And yeah, we've just been together ever since, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
So how many people did that same threat to Brian about you? I know I did.
Oh, so many people. I was getting messages like, "Hey, I hope you know I messaged him to let him know that if he hurts you, he's a dead man."
Uh, how did that feel
Even my
knowing?
mom.
Oh, it was your mom? I know she smiled big time when I said it at the Hammers when you guys walked up and I said, hey, Brian, I've known you for a long, long time, which I have. I've known him
Yeah.
20 plus years, but I was like, but this girl here is like a granddaughter to me, so don't mess this up. And he looked at me like, yeah, no, I'm not going to.
Yeah, it was funny to see how many people really have watched me grown up. And Brian, he's a little bit older, and but I mean, I don't look at it that way. It's just, it's funny, he's been in our world, and I didn't really know much of him. I had never really heard of him, and he's literally been around that long and has just as many of the same friends together that I've known for years and grown up with.
Right. Well, I'm glad you guys hit it off and things are working out for you.
Yeah.
I hope so. Now you got kids.
Oh yes, our sweet little angel.
And how old is she now?
She'll be 2 in February. Her name's Emery, and she is just a firecracker. She's starting to really talk and pick up on things, and it's really been fun to see her really wrap her finger around Brian, or wrap around Brian's finger,
Yep. Like he's got that's a thing that happens to dads with girls.
Oh
It
yes.
really does. So what was let's talk about going to Baja.
Okay.
How did that transpire? How did and you raced as well, right?
Yeah, yep. So I think that was my second time in Baja, and I finally got to do a race because the car hadn't finished. Oh no, I'm sorry. That would have been, no, my second time, and Brian went down with us our my third time there, and actually was my co-driver. Um, and we ended up taking second place.
Excellent. And that was the Baja 1000?
Yes,
Okay. And so you've raced 3 times or 2 times in the 1,000?
3 times.
3 times. Okay. Cool. And what class did you race? The 4,400 class down there, or was
Yep.
it class 1?
Nope. 4,400, the Hammer King Unlimited.
Hammer King Unlimited. Okay. Cool. And
Yeah.
what do you think of Baja?
That place is amazing. My favorite part is probably pre-running, because you're going at not a fast enough pace, but a slow enough pace to really see the terrain change. It could be like this washy sand, and then immediately go into this harsh gravel, and then there's just cactus everywhere out of the blue. It's just amazing how fast everything changes down there.
Right. And what do you think of like the people down there? Did you get a chance to interact with the locals?
Yeah, so we have a great guy who sets our hotels up and stuff. His name's Roto, and he puts us usually in hotels that are kind of in town, to where we can walk around and really interact with a lot of the locals and see all the cool food places and try all the new things. So I think that was something really cool um to interact with and whatnot.
Right. Let's what part of the race down there, I know the pre-running is cool.
Mhm.
I like driving back the race course after I've been down there helping teams or whatever. But what is it like on race day racing in that Baja 1000?
Um, it's it's really, I don't even know how to explain it. It's not like going to just your typical 4,400 race around here. in the States. It's something you have to really prepare for and have tons of checklists. And once you get down there, like a little bit of weight drops off your shoulders. And then finally, when race morning or race night, whatever time you're going, it's kind of just you feel relieved that you're finally in the car and it's still in one piece and you're moving. Um, and then your main goals are just to keep it together so that you get to the finish line, because that's one of the biggest things in Baja is finishing the 1,000, no matter what place it is.
Right. You know, like they say, you have to finish first before you can. You have to finish first. You have to finish before you can finish first.
Right.
Right. And crossing that finish line is always the goal in a race that's that long.
Yeah.
And what was it like co-pilot or having Brian co-pilot for you down there?
It was a very long race, and I can tell you that we only bickered once, and it was 50 miles before the finish line. And because our GPS stopped working, he couldn't tell me when the turns were coming up at a certain time that he liked, and he thought I was going too fast into the corner and needed to slow down. So, but that was like the only time we argued, and it's just funny telling that story because I feel like Brian and I, we clash very well, and we can read each other's minds, and as well as Miller's, and we all know what's going on, no matter what seat we're in.
Excellent. So when you're 50 miles from the end and you're thinking about you're that close, what's going through your mind as you're getting closer and closer to that finish line?
Oh, I cried. My eyes were watering, and it's just a huge accomplishment in its own, because the 2 years prior to that, we hadn't finished because we had issues with the car, and it was always before I was actually getting in the car to do my part of the race. So it just made it that much more emotional to finally be crossing the finish line.
And in that so you ran the last leg.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a chance to get a lot of passing in? Maybe not within your class, but maybe other classes?
Yeah, we did. I couldn't tell you what classes we passed, but yeah, there was still quite a few people moving in front of us that we did end up passing.
And what's it like passing down there? Because I know that the trails that they put you on, the roads or whatever you want to call them, they're not necessarily really wide until you find like the silt beds, which then become miles wide. So what was it like trying to get around people?
It was a little sketchy, I can tell you that. Coming in on the farm roads, where we also had speed limits, and then it would be wide open and then go back into speed limits. You only have so much time to pass too, so you really had to watch on the GPS where you had those openings. And it could get a little sketchy, and especially we were racing the last leg, so it was daylight. There's still a lot of spectators out, and that was the biggest thing that I was always worried about, and still am, was always me hitting a spectator.
Right, because one of the things, my first time down there, I was with BFG and working one of their pits, and we were expecting the motorcycles that had already come through. We were expecting the trophy trucks at any time, and we were near Catavina, and they're in a canyon, and they come out toward us on the road to fish camp, and we see all these lights coming, and it's like, all right, here come the trophy trucks. Man, they're a little early, and it happened to be a bunch of the locals in a pickup truck with big high-powered flashlights and lots of lights on their pickup truck, but there was like 4 people in the cab and 8 people in the bed of the truck going down the racetrack.
Oh my gosh.
At night. And after they passed, probably 10 minutes later, all of a sudden you see it looked like a city coming through the canyon, and it was the first trophy truck. And I was just absolutely amazed at how much difference the light was with those guys with all the race lights on. But
yeah,
all I could think about was I hope those guys in that pickup truck get off course.
Yes. Oh man.
and it's pretty crazy down there with I don't know if the if the locals creating the booby traps is still a thing. I haven't heard so much about booby traps lately, but I'm sure they're still
Yeah,
out there.
I haven't either. And my dad and my brother, or my dad has raced Baja way back in the day with Mike Palmer, and so he was aware of all that stuff. And I know he really taught my brother himself when they went down for the first time, like what to watch out for. And then finally, when I decided that I wanted to go and try it, my mom and him were both very, very worried about me going down there. So we had JT Taylor knew a guy down there. His name was Javier, and he was basically my bodyguard for the 2 weeks that we were down there. And he made me aware of all the booby traps and like what could go wrong if like you were broken down on the course. Like as soon as you break down, you radio us and tell us so that we can come pick you up because you don't know where you're at per se. There could be what they call them bambitos or something like that down there, or some a random truck could just come by and try and take you. And there's certain things that you need to know about before you go to Baja, especially being a young girl.
Right. No, I can remember being down there with Jesse Combs when she came down with Pistol Pete, and I was helping Pete out. And same thing. We just kept telling her, you don't go wandering off by yourself. One of us has
Yeah.
always got to be with you when we're around in town or anything like that, just to be safe.
Yeah.
So then let's talk about your marketing partners and some of the things that you had going that were a little different than just say, regular automotive type things.
Okay.
So discuss some of your partners.
So our biggest partner is Monster Energy. My dad's been with them since I think 2008 and has been with them ever since. And he kind of just carried us over onto his contracts. And my brother and I have been with them, I think, since 2015. And they've been great. One of our biggest sponsors. And then we've been with Fox forever since I started racing. I can't believe how far they've come in technology and the way that they work with us and the time they're willing to give us at each race is hands down the best race support ever. Our biggest thing is tuning our cars before KOH and at the races. So when they come out to a race, it's really helpful when they're able to help us set up the car and give us a little insight on valving and spring changes. Mike Kim's been a big part of that, as well as Matt Taylor. And then I have my own shock guru in the car with me all the time, Ryan Miller. And so he's constantly changing tubes and my preloads and ride height and whatnot. And I'm still trying to learn it all. It's a lot. It is a lot to mess with. But so Fox Shocks has always been a big supporter as well. Someone new that we have brought on is Evan Weller Racing, and he's currently started rebuilding all of our front and rear differentials. Motive Gear has always supplied the gears and whatnot, but Evan Weller's team has been building them this year, and we haven't had any issues. So it's been really nice to finally be in point of contact with somebody to ask them questions like, hey, why is the rear end doing this? Or why is the front diff not locking up correctly? And they are instantly there to support us and get it rebuilt and sent back out. Oh, who
Excellent.
else is there? Amsoil has always been a big supporter as well, giving us our fluids. There's so many, Rich. There's so many,
I
and I
wanted
just
I
can't thank
wanted to
them all
talk
enough.
about not the teams.
Oh, okay. Well,
You have a clothing company?
oh, yes, Off the Grid.
There you go.
Yep, Off the Grid has started a women's line. And last year, before I got pregnant, they came and fitted me for their first women's Kestrel pants and as well as the Bailey flannel. and that has really taken off. They are a pant that is for basically anything, daily wear, off-road use, fishing, in the shop, working on them. They're just a really durable pant that any woman that's wanting to get them dirty and not get skinned up or rip them or anything like that, they're really cool, and I love them. The Bailey flannel is also the same way. Josh Patterson, he made them to where they're meant for daily use and getting, I don't know, like in the rough, I guess, fishing and whatnot.
Okay. Excellent. Are there any others that are like specifically for you that you have marketing
Nope.
partners? Nope. Okay.
Nope, it is all team.
Excellent. Let's talk about the Rebel.
Okay.
So how did that come about where you said, okay, I got to go do this?
So ARB, one of our sponsors, actually came to me because one of their employees wanted to take part in it, and they suggested having somebody that ran their product in the racing world be teamed up with them. So my teammate was Kendra Miller, and oh man, I miss her. I haven't seen her in a few years now, but we met over an email saying like, hey, would you be interested in doing the Rebel? Emily Miller, who's putting on this event, and we think it'd be really cool if you guys took one of our prepared Jeeps out of the fleet and took it to the rally. So that's how that started. It was really funny and just kind of out of the blue. Kendra is she's hilarious. Even over an email, she would ask me like what my favorite snacks were, or like what's something that nobody else knows about me. And we would just email each other stuff, random things back and forth, just so we could get to know each other before we met in person. And I ended up picking up our first Jeep that we did the rally in at Off-Road Expo in Pomona, and brought it home with me to kind of go through and put the equipment in for the rallying, just get it ready and start packing it. Finally, Kendra flew down and we met for the first time, and we really hit it off.
And what did you think of the rally, the format and how it was put together for you ladies?
I think it was very well thought out. Emily Miller, she doesn't do anything that she's not super confident in. She always thinks the highest and doesn't miss one step. Everything just seems to be really perfect, and she, I think, has really planned the rally out and just made it so much fun, but technical and willing to do over and over again.
And how many times did you get a chance to run it?
I've done it twice.
Twice. Do you expect that you'll be able to get back out there sometime?
I really hope so. The last 2 years, it has overlapped our nationals race to where I wouldn't be able to make it back in time. So I haven't been able to do it. But hopefully next year we can find something to compete in.
Yeah, it's a little later next year, the dates.
Oh, did she already release the dates?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in fact, let me see here. I can do this here. I can figure this out on my phone. It always amazes me. I can talk on the phone plus use it to look things up. I'm old school. I'm old, meaning I'm old. Yeah, the Rebel is, the gala will be on the 21st of October, and it'll start like the 12th or 13th, something like that, I think.
Okay.
So it's a lot earlier this year. Instead of being that first week, it'll be like the second, third week.
Cool. All right. Well, I will start looking into that.
Yeah, I'm not sure of what the Ultra 4 Nationals are going to be like this next year, but hopefully it works out.
Yes.
And if you go again, do you have an idea who you want to be your partner?
Well, I will always go to Kendra first to see if she's available. I think we know how each other works now as far as navigating and driving, and the way we navigate together. And I think we were just a good combo.
And then, you have her husband. I can't remember his name right now.
Nate, it was
Nate, that's
Nate.
it.
Yeah.
He is a hilarious guy on there.
Oh, I know.
As a team manager, putting up the postings and stuff. I never get to see him until afterwards most of the time because I'm out there, but it's pretty hilarious.
Yes.
So let's talk about the future for Bailey Campbell. What are your dreams and aspirations?
You know, at the beginning of the year, I actually have the notes section in my phone, and I just have these main goals that I feel like I need to accomplish. And the first one being to be the first queen of the hammers, of course. And then I would love to Ironwoman the Baja 1000 at some point. And then I'd really like to travel overseas for just maybe like any type of racing, whether it be Dakar, a rally of some sort, or an Ultra 4 series on that side, but just something different. I'm ready to try something new.
Have you approached Monster with that? Because I know they do a lot of stuff overseas.
I have not. Um, just kind of I think Monster has their own division on the European side. So I've never really gone forth with that.
Okay. Okay. And what about besides the racing career? I know you guys got into a house and got it remodeled and all that kind of stuff. Are you planning on more kids, or is one enough? What's the goal there in motherhood? You're still
No,
young at 25.
I one and done. I am
One
good
and
with
done.
one little girl. I am so good, and I think Brian's on the same page. We're having fun, and we just can't wait to teach her all kinds of stuff. I think she's gonna have a very broad horizon of like racing and camping and fishing, but shopping with her grandma, and she's just gonna learn so many things. And I couldn't take the attention away from her and have another kid. I can't do it. And
Understood.
I just don't want to have any more kids. I think I'm good.
Excellent. Excellent. There's nothing wrong with that. One and done is fine. So yeah, I'm an only child, so I didn't mind.
Okay. Everybody tells me like, "Oh no, you can't make her be an only child," and I disagree with that. I think if you teach them things and you're with them there as they grow up, it's different.
I agree. I agree. They as long as they're not being left alone.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And you guys have a really big extended family. That's one
Yes.
thing about the Campbells. I mean, they don't even, I mean, I'm always amazed when I come down to the shop where there'll be people working and I'm like, oh, you guys got employees? Oh, no, they just came down to help. And you come out to the races and there's 25 or 30 people there that are just doing whatever needs to be done. You guys have really attracted a great group of people, and that's a testament to not only your dad and your mom, but to you and your brother and everybody else, because those people that are showing up to help are getting younger and younger as well.
Yeah, we've been blessed with a huge family, and I'm very thankful for that.
So last but not least, let's talk about the year that we all thought you were going to win. you popped up there all of a sudden. I mean, you were running at the top, and everybody that led the race was, for some reason dropped out. And then, I mean, you passed a lot of people, but, talk about that race and what happened and how. I know it was disappointing because if you're in the lead like that and you're just cranking it along, but go ahead and talk about that if you would.
Yeah, every time it gets brought up, I get a little bit emotional, and it makes me cry a little bit. And it was the year before I got pregnant with Emery, and I felt so ready. and the race was going perfectly. We started that morning, didn't have one issue, nothing was going wrong. We didn't have any flats. We didn't have to get out of the car one time to winch or for Miller to spot me through the rock trails. We just kind of kept hearing over the radio, the leader kept dropping down, and finally we actually came up around the corner to go down Resolution and into back door, and we saw Jason Shear, the leader at the time, was pulled over, and he was standing on the roof of his car, waving me on, as well as Jason Berger in the front waving me on, because they knew I was the new leader. And I think Miller and I both bawled our eyes out a little bit in the car. And then we went across, I can't remember the name of the lake bed, but it's on the far end side, getting ready to go through all the rock trails again. And my water pump pulley gave out and cracked, and there was no way to fix it. We were stopped there, I want to say, for about a half hour before the next guy, Cameron Steele, passed us to take the lead. And he literally broke right on the other side of the mountain after that. And, it was just, all you could do is just sit there and think, like, why? Like, what the heck? Did it really just have to happen? But I grew up with the never quit attitude. So Miller and I radioed into the pits to find out where my dad was at. And he ended up bringing out a new water pump. And we got it fixed on the trail, and we got moving again, and we ended up finishing 22nd still.
That was awesome that you guys were able to finish.
Yeah, it was. It was still a huge accomplishment in itself because, we didn't just stop and quit and think we're stranded out here. Our day's over. We kept trying to figure out a way to get the car to the finish line, and it just made it that much better.
Right. And have any of the other races felt since then that you had a really good shot at it?
The one year that I finished 5th, as with Terry Madden as my co-driver, that day was perfect. I know the leader was way ahead of where we were at, but that race was just going so well, and it just felt really good.
And what have you learned from your navigators, and especially for something like King of the Hammers, which I would imagine also translates over to Baja?
Yeah. So every co-driver has been different, and I've been asked this question a lot lately. I have Miller, my rock crawling guru. I love it because he loves the rock crawling too, and it's just so technical and fun between both of us. And then I had Terry Madden, who was great in the desert. He taught me where to pick up the pace and where to knock it down a notch when I was getting out of hand or the car wasn't settling right. He kind of just kept me on my toes a lot, and he helped me finish a lot of my races. My dad always was, keep your finesse, don't break the car early, like keep that attrition to where you're gonna make the car finish. My brother's even been my co-driver a couple times, and he was more so, him and Brian were more so about helping me figure out when I needed to shift. Because a funny fact, Ryan Miller and Terry Madden both had to shift for me for the longest time in my solid axle car, because when I was first learning, like, I didn't know how to listen to the RPMs and when to shift and when to downshift when we're going into a rock section and whatnot. So that's always something really embarrassing to tell, because I felt kind of helpless when that was going on. But then they finally said, okay, you need to figure this out. It's a little hard shifting from the passenger seat for you. But we had it down. We had a good system going.
And now they've added something else to your plate.
Yes. But that was always fun. So Brian and my brother, they always helped me more so inside the car in that way, the shifting aspect, because Brian's very good at short course. My brother's also very good at it. They had a lot of experience with that type of racing, and I think that's helped me a lot. So every co-driver I've had, every spotter I've had has taught me something new.
Okay. So I remember talking to you and saying, once your dad gives you some real horsepower, you're gonna really start kicking it into another gear. And you finally graduated to the bigger motor and a real car. You got rid of that straight axle car that you were driving, which was a beautiful car. But they gave you you got into the big car. Was that the year, the bigger motor? Was that the year that the water pump went out, broke?
No, I have had, let's see, I had that car a year before that.
Okay. What was it like when when your dad said, "Okay, you get to get a bigger motor now"?
It was really a whole new learning curve. And the first race I actually had in that car was a short course race, so it made it even worse. Because I was kind of expected to basically use all of the motor on a short course race where you hang it out and really put the pedal to the metal. But the whole goal was just to make that car finish for that race and get all the bugs out and whatnot. I think it would be weird going back to a smaller motor now.
That's good to hear. Hopefully
Yes.
that never happens,
I hope not.
unless you come out rock crawling, because you
Yes.
don't need that kind of motor rock crawling.
No.
So, I guess the last thing I want to hear is, what you personally think of all of the racing and being a woman in motorsports and being, somebody that people know is going to be a challenger at the races. There's some people that'll always be that back of the pack, but that is rarely thought of as any Campbell being at the back of the pack. And you being the princess of the family, which is a good thing, okay? Like you said, want to be that first queen of the rocks. What do you think of all that?
That's a good question. I say this every time somebody brings up being a female in motorsports, and I'll keep saying it because it's true. And my dad has always taught me not to throw basically the girl card. I've grown up around all these guys, and I feel like I've gained their respect and have really worked for where I'm at now. And I just feel like I'm like any other person out there, whether it be a guy or another female. And I just really think if you're gonna be in a sport like this, it's fun for it to be a hobby, but if you really want it, you need to work for it. Learn your car, get to know the people around you, and build the friendship inside that community, like my family has in Ultra 4, Dirt Riot, and We Rock in past series. So
Yeah, I agree. Do you feel that I think you're a great representation and a model for a lot of young ladies out there that may be interested in racing. And
yeah.
do you does that ever cross your mind when you're walking through the pits or through a spectator area?
Oh yes. I love all the little girls that come up to me. I actually had one in Sturgis, and it's Paul Horschel's daughter. She is the sweetest little thing, and she loves to hang all over me, and she's so goofy. And anytime I walk past a little girl, I'm like, I'm so glad your parents brought you out here to just even see the race. If they're not interested, just to hear that little bit of horsepower going around the course, like it might spark an interest somewhere down the road. And if I say hi to them, maybe it'll give them even more interest and just make their day.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, with that, I would like to say thank you so much for coming on board and spending some time and talking to us and letting your fans and rock sport fans out there know a little bit more about Bailey.
Thanks, Rich. I hope I answered all your questions.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Is there anything, here's one. Is there anything that you want to ask me? I know that's a hard thing to throw at you at the last second without you thinking about it. But is there any question you've ever wanted to ask me?
Where is your favorite place to host a rock crawling event?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there is. And I'd have to break it down into a couple of different spots. Donner Ski Ranch is one of those places that, even though it's so hard to put an event on there because of the elevation and getting the spectators up to the event site area, it is just so beautiful and the rocks are so extreme that it's a great place for a competition. You have Cedar City, which is the ease and access to great rocks is just so incredible. You're close to town. It's all right there. Farmington, it's big. It's spectator friendly. It can put the fear into even the staunchest, best drivers when they look at, you're 60 feet above the surface of you're on a rock face at 60 feet above ground, the flats. And then there's places like Dayton, Tennessee, where, the crowds at night and under the lights is just, incredible. So it's really hard to pick one, but, for each one of those reasons, those are probably the four favorite.
Okay.
I wish that people could get out and see more of like Katemsi Rocks out in Mason, Texas. I mean, incredible. It's like Cedar City and Moab and Farmington all wrapped up into one in a small park setting. But it's a place out in the middle. You're an hour and a half from any big city, so it's a little harder for people to find out about and get to. But it's a place that's dear to my heart as well. So there you go.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
All right, Bailey, you take care, and I can't wait to see you again. And hug that little girl Emery for me, and we'll talk again later.
All right, sounds good, Rich. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bailey. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that's another episode of Conversations with Big Rich. I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you could do us a favor and leave us a review on any podcast service that you happen to be listening on, or send us an email or a text message or a Facebook message, and let me know any ideas that you have, or if there's anybody that you have that you think would be a great guest, please forward the contact information to me so that we can try to get them on. And always remember, live life to the fullest. Enjoying life is a must. Follow your dreams and live life with all the gusto you can. Thank you.